5 seconds to the open.
Ready?
Who wants to get this thing started right about now?
Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly with your host, Jerry Robinson.
Welcome.
Not just some guru.
Oh, really?
Your host is an economist and a best-selling author.
What an interesting news item. I'd better write that down.
And just someone who likes to make money and help you to make money. Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly. And here he is, Jerry Robinson.
Friends, welcome to you all around the world. Welcome to Follow the Money Radio. So grateful to have you here. Again, my name is Jerry Robinson, as you just heard, and great to have you. We are really, really excited about today's show. I'm also joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Jennifer. Jennifer, great to have you today.
Thanks, Jerry. It's good to be here. I mean, if you are interested at all in improving your financial life, or, as I know much of our audience is, if you are suspicious of Wall Street and the big banks out there, then you're really going to enjoy the show today, I believe.
Yeah, today's show is really designed for you. And in fact, we've called the show, Have You Heard of the 770 Account? And the majority of people never have. And it might be a little gimmicky as far as the number. I mean, we have all heard of things like the 401k account, but we know that it's much more than just a 401 or maybe a 529 account or a 529 plan. All these numbers, what do they really mean? Well, ultimately, today we're going to be talking about a plan that perhaps you've never heard of and that we just said, the 770 account. It's a really interesting way for you to soup up your retirement income. For people who are nearing retirement, this can be a very powerful plan that you can turn on that Wall Street will never, ever tell you about. And today you're going to hear all about it from a financial advisor who's been advising people for nearly 40 years. His name is Mike Mitchell. And by the way, Mike is also going to be on the stage at the 2019 Follow the Money Summit. We're very excited about that coming up. You can register for your tickets at summit.followthemoney.com. But without further ado, let's just dive into today's interview with Mike Mitchell, a financial advisor. He's also with our Christian Advisor Referral team. You can find out more about that by going to followthemoney.com/advice. Let's head over to the interview right now. Well, joining us on the line again, our good friend and longtime financial advisor, Mike Mitchell. You have heard him not only right here on this broadcast over the years. He actually has his own little podcast that we've featured right here on Follow the Money, also on our YouTube page. And he has also been a speaker at our previous summits, our 2018 summit, our 2016 summit, and he's also speaking at the upcoming 2019 Follow the Money Summit. We're actually looking very much forward to that. Mike, it's great to have you on the line today. Thanks for joining us on Follow the Money Radio.
It's great to be here, Jerry. Thank you so much for reaching out to us and giving us an opportunity to talk and share with your listeners.
Absolutely. You know, you and I hit it off many years ago when I discovered that you were using a very powerful financial planning software that I was familiar with, that I was using with clients whenever I was actually practicing as a financial advisor. And that software really goes perfectly well with our 5 levels of financial freedom. By the way, you can go to followthemoney.com/5 levels, and you can get on the path to financial freedom using the same exact principles that Jennifer and I use to achieve financial freedom. And Mike, we've heard so many times over the years how people who have contacted you, how helpful you have been in helping them move through those 5 levels of financial freedom with your own software that you use.
Yes. We love educating people about how to achieve that financial freedom, and that gives us a very good track to run on, and it gives us the ability to actually account for and track our progress as we go through it. So people, I think, find it extremely helpful.
We've been talking on this podcast, Mike, about this concept often called the 770 account. We see that sometimes as referred to, also known as the banking on yourself concept. And we've had Nelson Nash on this broadcast before a few years ago talking about this concept. In essence, it allows you to aggressively save money in a life insurance policy and then borrow from yourself without having to qualify for a loan, somewhere else, or having to borrow from your IRA or 401k. So it's a really interesting topic, and I'd really like for you just to kind of expand on it. Talk to us about the bank on yourself strategy, also known as the 770 account, because we just don't hear too much about how this strategy works and how permanent life insurance can play a role in your financial plan.
Yes, the 770 plan. Of course, that's a marketing name, but it derives from Internal Revenue Code 7702, which is actually the tax code that deals with and manages how life insurance contracts, permanent or cash value life insurance contracts, are taxed. And you're exactly right in your initial description. People can utilize this strategy to basically fund a life insurance policy, and there's several different types of permanent life insurance policies, and we can certainly get into that. And that does make a difference. The way it's designed, the way it's structured, is vitally important to the success of using this concept of banking on yourself. But it's funding aggressively a permanent life insurance plan, building up cash values inside that life insurance contract on a tax-favored basis, and then ultimately being able to borrow money from that life insurance contract to make purchases or to utilize economic opportunity options with cash values and money that is very, very good from an economic standpoint as far as money being borrowed. It's a very cheap form of leveraging that people can utilize when they use these contracts properly.
Mike, it's a really interesting strategy, and when it comes to retirement savings, I mean, nearly all Americans have been taught to put their money into just a handful of qualified plans. You got your IRA, your traditional IRA, you got your 401k, you got your 403b. You deal with those all the time when you're dealing with, with people and their financial plans. What I see as the problem here, and we talked about this in our book, Bankruptcy of Our Nation, is that this poses a problem when you have so many people using these qualified tax plans for retirement, because when you consider income tax rates are very likely going to be much higher in the future than they are now. I mean, we look at the state of America, we look at the state of Washington, we see the amount of spending that's going on. It's absolutely astronomical, and there is no plan to pay off the national debt. There is no plan to shore up Social Security. There is no plan to shore up Medicare and Medicaid. It's just it's too much of a political hot button for the politicians to do anything about it. It would require them to have some backbone. And so as we look forward, we see income tax rates, they're going to be going up. And if you think that income tax rates are going up, then you have to ask yourself, why am I choosing to pay the tax upon the harvest instead of paying the tax upon the seed? And I'd like for you to speak to that, because when we think about this strategy of permanent life insurance being used, people often say, no, it's 401k, that's what it's for, or you're supposed to use an IRA. Talk about who this strategy is appropriate for and why it may be better sometimes than an IRA or better than a 401k.
Yes, you're exactly correct. I mean, people have to realize, and I've actually talked about this in my own podcast that's been on Follow the Money website, Sound Retirement. We're a nation that currently is over $22 trillion in debt, and that's a number that a lot of people have a very difficult time wrapping their minds around. But if you realize that the only way the government can raise cash or obtain funding for whatever they're doing in Washington is it's through the tax code. And if people are being incentivized to put money away into retirement plans and what may be a 20 or a 25% tax bracket today, and then ultimately reach their retirement years and find themselves with all their tax loopholes closed and possibly a marginal tax rate that looks closer to 40 or 50 or 60 or possibly 70, and we have historical precedents for that, then you got to ask yourself the question of who did you save the money for? So if you can position money into these permanent life insurance contracts, which have historically always been a place to place money and ultimately be able to use that money in a tax-free environment. Literally, it's almost like a Roth IRA on steroids. I often refer to it like that with a lot of my clients. But I think it's a way to kind of at least position yourself to hopefully be in a better position at retirement from a income position and a taxing position than what a lot of people are going to find themselves in when they're just using, the avenues that we have at our disposal now.
So, Mike, Jennifer here, and I have a question about, you hear a lot in mainstream financial media and even in educational venues, just buy term life insurance and then go invest the difference in, something like mutual funds or ETFs. So what would you say to people who give that kind of advice instead of using these permanent or cash value life insurance policies?
Well, that's probably one of the greatest invitations for me to get on a soapbox that I've ever gotten, Jennifer. But I will tell you this: I think people that give that advice are giving a lot of misinformation, a lot of misleading information to people, and building hopes that are based on false assumptions. First of all, term life insurance ultimately will become the most expensive life insurance contract you could ever own. Everybody, if they understand the concept of mortality, insurance companies know how to play this game quite well. They know that they can bring you into their company on a very low premium cost for the amount of death benefit that you have obtained while you're young, and the likelihood of you using that policy is very low. But once you get closer to the end of your mortality, when you're in your 70s, you're in your 80s, maintaining that term life insurance policy will be almost impossible. And these insurance companies realize that, and they actually are attempting to drive people away from them at the point of their life when they're going to need this policy the most. So you wind up with a policy that has no cash value. It has you've lost opportunity from that cash value that you did not get, and then ultimately you have to drop the policy because of its cost. And if you take a very large life insurance policy death benefit for your family, this is from a legacy perspective, and you calculate the lost opportunity cost on them not ultimately receiving that money, it's an astronomical number. And then the other side of the equation is the mutual fund assumption. And without naming any names, there's one prognosticator out there, a teacher that basically purports that everybody can expect a 12% return in their mutual fund accounts. Well, if you follow any of the legitimate industry research, Dalbar Research is probably one of the best that I'm aware of, and that is simply the average equity investor over the last 25 to 30 years, if they just follow what they do, the average equity investor returns about 3 to 4% return, not 12. So if you're buying a term policy, which ultimately is going to get too expensive for you to keep, and you are, even if you do a good job of investing in mutual funds, and a lot of people do not, they get the average return that most equity investor gets, which is 3 to 4%. Then that dream castle that has been built in their minds for their retirement picture is not going to be there. So I think it's not a strategy that works for most people. And it's a management issue, it's a cost issue, and then we're not even talking about the taxation side of all that, because money you earn in the mutual fund accounts ultimately is going to get taxed at some point, whereas with these life insurance contracts, you're able to access these cash values out of these life insurance contracts without paying taxes. So I just don't think it flies. It doesn't work, and people need to be aware of that.
You know, I want to comment on two things you made, comments that you made there, Mike. First of all, as you stated, insurance companies are in business to make money. I mean, that's exactly, unless I don't know something, that's exactly what they're there to do. And
Yes.
if you look at their front-facing pieces, their sales pieces, they're always pushing term. In fact,
Right.
the majority of the individuals out there who talk about insurance push term. But it's interesting that you always hear about the whole life insurance or the permanent life insurance as being sold because, I've often heard because, there's greed and the agent wants to make a lot of money, and so he pushes the permanent life insurance instead of the term life insurance, and that's typically the line. But as you point out, I think the number, and you may know the exact number, but I think it's somewhere between 95 and 97% of term life insurance policies expire worthless. In other words, they never pay out the death benefit. So you rent this insurance, and then you're usually, the insurance company is not they don't design these plans to lose money. They design these plans to make money with their actuary tables. And so whenever they sell you a term life insurance policy, they're gambling that you're going to live during that entire term. That's how they make money. If you don't, then they lose money because you're paying very little and getting a very large death benefit. And so it really boils down to, Mike, whether you want to rent your insurance or whether you want to own your insurance. And if you rent it, you have to know that you may not always be able to rent it because at some point they could cut you off due to health issues or
Right.
whatever the case might be. So, I think you make some really powerful points there. And you also brought up that prognosticator. I'll name him. Let's go ahead. His name is Dave Ramsey. And we do get quite a few people contacting us and asking us how we're different from Dave Ramsey. And one of the very first things I tell them is that we don't tell people to buy term and invest the difference. We think that it may be appropriate for some, and let's talk about that. Who would buy term and invest the difference be good for as opposed to one of these 770 accounts that we're talking about? Because I think one of the things we want to stress here, Mike, is that unlike some prognosticators, we don't have just one hammer and trying to drive nails. We know that there are many different situations that people could be in. For some people, term life insurance makes a lot of sense. For others, permanent life insurance makes the most sense. Talk about the difference there.
Well, term insurance, by its very nature, by its very terminology, terminates at some point. So a person who needs or should have a term policy would probably be someone who is starting out in life. They have a family, they have a financial exposure, they have income needs and protection needs that their family has, but yet they don't have the income stream, the cash flow stream that could support a permanent insurance policy or a policy that builds cash values. So people who have short-term needs or short-term financial situations that are going to change certainly could benefit from having the protection for their family, and they could do that at an income level that would be quite low. So I'm sorry, it's a cost basis that would be quite low, but that's only a temporary situation, and it is literally a temporary solution or response to a permanent need. So buying term insurance should be a short-term project that's ultimately going to position you to convert to a more permanent solution as you get into your plan. Now, as far as who should be investing in the marketplace, who should be investing in mutual funds, I certainly think that a portion of a person's investable capital should be in the market, particularly if they're younger or they're in an age bracket where they've got time to be able to weather the volatility and the ups and downs in the market. But certainly as people approach their retirement years when they can very not afford to be able to take that kind of risk, particularly if they're close to retirement and they have a great big market correction, and then all of a sudden they are now not going to be able to retire because of the losses that have occurred. Those are the people that need to, I think, to certainly position away from the equity positions in a market-driven economy and an investment program. So I think term insurance should be bought for short-term issues, ultimately with an eye to convert to permanent insurance. And being in the market in your early years, I'd say your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and maybe the early part of your 50s, but then you should begin to think of starting to transition out of the market into more safe money positions as you're certainly approaching retirement years.
Mike, you know, one of the things that really opened my eyes many years ago as I came into the financial planning industry is I noticed that at the corporate level, how very few corporate executives receive fringe benefits of term insurance. In fact, They usually don't use that at all, even though it's touted to be the most important thing that everybody should have. You'll find that these top corporate executives are given permanent insurance as part of their employee benefits. And I think that's also very ironic. Barry James Dyke, another one of our advisors in our Christian Advisor Referral, has also written a book on this topic, The Pirates of Manhattan, where he goes in, Mike, and I think you're familiar with this, but he goes in and he shows how many of the executives at all of these top insurance and Wall Street firms, they have permanent insurance. And their ads tell you to buy term and invest the difference because that's how they make money. Yes. Otherwise, they would lose money. But they're not buying term and investing the difference. They're buying permanent for themselves, for their top executives, for their families to protect themselves. And then they tell us to just buy term and invest the difference because Wall Street looks out for itself, not for individuals like you and me. So it's such a powerful point you make. I wanted to let you know, by the way, you're listening to the voice of Mike Mitchell. He is a advisor in our Christian Advisor Referral. You can contact him by phone at 833-370-0777.
Yeah, and Mike, I have another question for you as we get into the final moments of the interview. And I was just thinking that, you know, of course, permanent life insurance is a part of Jerry and my financial plan. We love it. We're one of the biggest advocates for it out there. But I was just thinking of perhaps maybe an example of someone who might be listening that might be wondering if it's right for them. And I thought of the family who might have young children and they're ready to start saving for a college education. So typically the mainstream thing to do is to open a 529 plan. This is another one of those things like the 401ks that are qualified for tax purposes, but not very many people know that you can use this bank on yourself or 770 account concept with permanent life insurance for the college savings. So talk about the pros and cons of that and how the bank on yourself concept compares to the 529 plan for college savings.
Excellent question, Jennifer. The 529 plan was designed specifically to give people an economic and a tax incentive for putting money away and to be able to use those dollars specifically for education, and that's the only thing that you can use them for. So if you set up a 529 plan and then ultimately the beneficiary of that 529 plan doesn't utilize those for educational purposes, you're limited to how much you can use and how well you can use those dollars that have been put away. You literally are required to use them specifically for educational purposes. Therefore, anytime you take an incentive that the government gives you to do anything from an economic perspective, you got to realize that the government has got their hooks in to what you're ultimately going to do with those dollars. They're going to have the final say in how those dollars are used. However, if you're using one of these permanent life insurance contracts, and again, I stress it's a very, very important that you talk to someone who knows how to design these properly so that the cash values accumulate at the best rate possible, in the most rapid fashion possible, in the most tax advantaged fashion possible, so that you can use these dollars. There's lots of liquidity opportunity in these cash value policies to utilize for things that you would want to use them for, specifically for educating a child. Instead of borrowing money on a student loan basis and paying a high amount of interest going forward that ultimately translates into the child's life possibly when they least need that to happen, you can use these life insurance contracts which you're literally banking on yourself, where you can borrow money out of these policies, fund an education, then ultimately repay those loans back into that policy so that you ultimately can turn around and use that policy's cash values for other economic benefits or possibly to supplement retirement later on. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of mobility when it comes to making economic decisions as your family moves through life and you encounter the various milestones of life from an economic perspective that you're going to want to be able to deal with. It just affords you the ability to maintain control rather than handing that control off to someone else.
Fantastic insight. And I got to just dovetail on that, Mike, that if we have heard anything negative or if we have seen anything negative with these permanent life insurance policies, it comes from people who are not like yourself, who have 40-plus years experience in using these products, and oftentimes they don't structure them properly. I encourage you to reach out to somebody like Mike Mitchell if you're curious about this at all. He can answer your questions. You can contact him at 833-370-0777. That's 833-370-0777. Or you can also go to followthemoney.com/advice. And also fill out your information if you'd like to have Mike Mitchell give you a call. Mike, it's been great having you on the podcast today. I really do appreciate your time. Any final words of wisdom before we let you go?
Just thank you so much. You and Jennifer have been such a blessing to my family, and the opportunity to work with you guys has just been amazing. And I would just say, for those who are listening out there, you can take control of your financial future, and you can be successful in attaining financial freedom if you follow the right path. And I think through what you're getting from Follow the Money, you are absolutely getting connected with the right advice to direct you toward a path that can lead to success.
Thank you for that, my friend. God bless you, and we'll see you at the 2019 Summit. We'll see you there.
Looking forward to it.
Hi, friends. Jerry Robinson here from followthemoney.com. You know, when I first started Follow the Money back in 2010, my goal was simple: to help as many people achieve financial liberty as I possibly could through education, information, and even private coaching. Today, nearly 10 years later, followthemoney.com has succeeded in this goal of helping everyday people just like you, not just in the United States, but around the world, get on the path to true financial freedom. And one of the most powerful methods that we have developed over the years of helping people just like you reach their financial goals is through our live Follow the Money Summit, where each year myself and the Follow the Money team gather before a live audience to teach the principles of true financial freedom. This year, I am more excited than ever about our upcoming 2019 Summit, as my team and I have completely reconfigured our summit to ensure that every single person who attends will not only gain unique and powerful insights that could change their financial life forever, but that also promises that they will leave with an action plan for success that they can execute upon for the rest of the year and even for the rest of their lives. Put simply, we have crafted this year's live event in such a way that it is impossible that anyone who attends can leave without having their financial lives radically touched and even changed. So what about you? Are you ready to take your financial life to the next level? Are you tired of feeling stuck in your finances? What you need is to attend this year's live Follow the Money Summit, When you register for the 2019 Summit, you'll be making an investment not only in yourself and your own financial education, you'll be making a major investment in your financial future. In addition to learning many new income and investing ideas, you will also meet other people just like yourself. There will be lots of time for networking, and we'll even have a private evening reception planned for all attendees where I will be able to spend a little time with each of you to meet you individually and answer your questions. I'm committed to your financial success. Let Follow the Money help you take your financial life to the next level by making plans to attend this year's summit on May 31st. We're hosting this year's conference in a central U.S. location in beautiful Northwest Arkansas. That makes it easy for everyone to get to no matter where they live in the United States. This area actually sits on the world's 9th largest economy as it serves as the global headquarters for Walmart. Our summit will be held in the luxurious Embassy Suites Hotel and Spa. You'll live and eat like a king while learning and networking with many like-minded individuals from around the world. Make 2019 the year that you commit to achieving true financial liberty. Reserve your seat now for the 2019 Follow the Money Summit online by going to summit.followthemoney.com. Don't miss this year's incredible lineup of topics, speakers, and fun events that we have prepared for you. Come and be a part of the community by going online to summit.followthemoney.com and reserve your seat today. And I'll look forward to meeting you at this year's summit. Well, friends, that brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us each and every week right here on this broadcast. And as always, I'd like to leave you with a final word. You know, we talk a lot about money here. Follow the Money is the name of our podcast. But in reality, money itself can never satisfy. You can get as much money as you possibly want to, and you still won't be happy. The Bible confirms this in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10, where it says that he that loves silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loves abundance with increase. That was spoken by the wise King Solomon, who had more money than he knew what to do with. He was living proof that money cannot bring happiness. So it's kind of an oxymoron that we would say it's important to have financial liberty, but you cannot receive happiness from money. It's very, very important to understand the difference. We don't chase after money. Instead, we strive after financial wisdom. And there's a real big difference. And that's just something to think about. Remember, friends, when you want the truth, just follow the money. Have a safe and prosperous week, and we'll see you right back here next time. Until then, God bless.
All of the information contained on the Follow the Money podcast is strictly for informational and educational purposes. It should not be construed as specific investment advice. The views and opinions of our guests and sponsors are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of ftmdaily.com or Robinson Media Group, LLC. Jerry Robinson does hold an insurance license and at times may offer consulting on life insurance and fixed retirement income products. Follow-up, individualized responses to email or phone requests that involve the rendering of personalized investment advice for compensation will not be made absent compliance with state investment advisor registration requirements or an applicable exemption or exclusion and applicable insurance regulations. Past performance is not indicative of future results. You should be aware of the real risk of loss in following any strategy or investment discussed on the podcast. Remember, never do your financial planning through podcast or radio. It's your money. Be wise. Do your due diligence and always consult a trusted financial professional before making any financial decisions.